Angel fans, what do the stats of a potential starting lineup say about our starters? We're going to look at those numbers and decide together. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation.
Happy Thursday to you, and thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, it's our third season here at Locked On Angels, and we're excited to be covering the Angels in 2024, Monday through Friday, all the way through the rest of the season, Monday through Friday, every single weekday. We appreciate you guys being here with us. On today's show, the Halos are preparing Ben Joyce for the late innings, and how they decided to do it was very interesting, Mike. And we're looking at the potential starting lineup and their stats this spring. But first, Mike, let's get into yesterday's game against the Royals. There was also an intrasquad game as well, right?
Yeah, Griffin Canning pitched in that one. That was back in Tempe. Went 5 innings, gave up 1 earned run. Mike Trout was there, went 1 for 3, had a home run, a deep fly out, and a walk. And then Anthony Rendon was also there, went 2 for 3. Rhett Bollinger reported that Rendon made a nice barehanded play at third base. So that's
you
good
like to
know.
hear?
Didn't make an error.
Streak. I know.
Didn't make an error.
If he made an error in this inter-squad game, does that count? Does that count against us?
If you got pictures, then you got nothing, right? Now, there was a TV game. It was the Angels and Royals, and my boy Reid Detmers started this one. John only gave up 1 hit. It was a home run in the very first at bat. It was kind of a wind-blown home run to center field.
Really blown out to center field yesterday.
Yeah, and the fact that it was only 1 hit against the Royals until the 6th inning was pretty incredible. So Reid went 4 innings, gave up 1 run, 1 hit, 2 walks, 5 Ks. Certainly much different than what's happening with Patrick Sandoval right now. Reid Detmers seems to be up and to the right, which is really exciting. And then Ohapi had a pickoff of Velasquez at first base, right, for Detmers' final out. It was just a throw down there. And Shonowell, when he turned around to tag the runner wasn't even there. He was still sliding in. You can see Shonowell kind of reaching for that. So that was really great to see. I'm glad that Reid Detmers had another really strong outing yesterday.
Yeah, lots of pitches, of course, with the 2 walks and whatnot. But it definitely is trending in the right direction for Reid Detmers as opposed to where he was in that first game. And then the complete opposite with Sandy. It was a stellar first game, and then it just has not been able to find it the last 2.
Right.
So at this point, I think Reid Detmers maybe gets the opening day start, maybe between him and Griffin Canning. That'll be an interesting option there. Mike, Ben Joyce got into this one. Clean inning, 11 pitches, 2 groundouts, and a strikeout. Doesn't have to strike everybody out, Mike.
No.
He can just throw it really hard and induce some weak or bad contact from the hitter and get those outs. And that's exactly what Ben Joyce did in that one. Jose Cisnero, 1 inning pitch, 1 K, 2 hits, and 1 earned run. He seems to be in the bullpen plans to start the season. And then Kelvin Caceres, Mike, 1 inning, 1 hit, 1 earned run, 1 K, and 1 walk. 1's across the board.
Yeah.
He's trying to make a case for himself to get out of the pen to get one of those bullpen spots that are up for grabs. Previously, he had not given up a run in 5 spring outings, so there's somebody to consider as well. And then Carlos Estevez, a nice clean inning with a strikeout. Nelson Rada made an awesome diving catch in left field for out number 1. Right field, and for out number 1. And Ron Washington said of Rada's play, when that ball was hit, I thought for sure it was a double. That is a big league play. So that was great to hear from Ron Washington.
Johnny, was this Estevez's first clean inning in the spring?
I think so.
I think it is. Yeah. So he's trending in the right direction. That's good to see. Yeah. Let's talk hitting for a moment. Miguel Sanó homered in this one, crushed the pitch, although it was windy. So it was kind of a wind-blown home run.
This also got carried out by the wind. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It sounded great off the bat, right?
Yeah.
Also had a hard hit line drive that hit the top of the fence and right. It was so hard that he only got a single out of it.
Yeah.
That was interesting. Jeff Fletcher of the OC Register reported that Ron Washington said he's starting to get his timing a little better. So that's good news. Good to see that. He's using the whole field, according to Wash. That right fielder tried to make a move, and the ball was just over his head when he hit the ball out there. Yeah. And then he stole a base, John. Stole a bag.
The Ron Washington effect, Mike.
Love that. So Sanó, after yesterday's game, is 6 for 30. Mm-hmm. That's a 200 batting average, 4 walks, but an 814 OPS this spring, which is pretty good. And Miguel said that he feels good. He's healthy. He's been working in the cage every single day. And Johnny, guess who he's been working with? Guest instructor, Vlad Guerrero. So I love it. That is, I think, a great combination. Vladdy's going to teach him how to hit the ball, even if it bounces to home plate. That's fantastic, right?
Exactly. You can swing out of your shoes on that one. Mike, Miguel Sanó, Aire Adrianza, and Livan Soto look to be the ones competing for that last spot on the bench. Do you think Sanó gets it, considering he can play the corners, he can play first, third, he can be a DH, he's a power bat off the bench? What are your thoughts on Miguel Sanó here?
My heart says yes, just because it seems like he's trending up and to the right. But I think Adrianza is going to be the guy that would be more reasonable, just simply because he can back up Neto at shortstop and second base. But my gut says Sanó, because I think that Rengifo is going to be the backup shortstop for Neto if he's not in there. And so I think the Angels are looking at that and going, let's see what we can do with Sanó on the bench, or perhaps rotating in and out at third base, first base, and that DH spot, because there really isn't a backup for first base outside of like Brandon Drury. Yeah. And so to have somebody like a Sanó on the bench, and then as a threat, as a pinch hitter, and maybe perhaps slotting in there at DH, I think it might be a smart move. My heart says, yeah, you should go in that direction, just simply because I want to see this guy thrive. I want to see this guy win. And I think that if they can buy low and get something really worth it, like it's a low risk and they get a high reward, Miguel Sanó would be that guy.
I think for me, it's important that he plays the corners. I think it's important that he plays as somebody who can play behind Nolan Shawnuel, especially against lefties. Now, it doesn't seem like Shawnuel is struggling too much against lefties, so that's a positive in his direction. But over at third base, he's done fairly well. I've seen a couple errors over from Sanó, but not throwing errors, more like fielding errors.
Right.
And I think that's just has everything to do with the fact that he got to camp late because of the visa issues, and seems to be something that he can work on with Ron Washington. Adrianza, to me, makes sense as the backup shortstop, but I feel like we had this discussion before. Let's roll with Neto and Rengifo until you can't. Yeah. Right? Until you just can't. And I think that is kind of maybe the direction they will go. Livan Soto as well is having a great spring, and I'm really glad we got him back for some depth in the infield. I don't know that he'll make the team, but he has been looking pretty good so far. But again, with Sanó, you like the potential for power. You like that off the bat, especially in a big moment when he can come in and you want a home run. Who better than to call up Sanó? But I also like that he's hitting it to all fields as well, Mike.
Yes, I think that he extends this lineup. And I think one of the things that we'll recognize as we look at stats in the last segment, I think that we'll see that this team does need some offensive help. It's why a lot of people have been clamoring for JD Martinez, right? Bring him in and we can have an extra offensive bat in the lineup. What you get with Sanó is the potential of 20, 25 home runs maybe, and he's younger and he plays all over the infield. Yeah. With JD Martinez, you're really just getting a bat. That's all that you're getting. And so Sanó could be a pleasant surprise for the Angels and extend this lineup a bit with him being in there. And you just never know what's going to happen with Anthony Rendon. So I think it might be a wise move to have somebody who is a Major League Baseball player, has been an all-star, backing up Anthony Rendon at third base.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, if it's got to be a bench spot, if we're in a position where he's in there every day at some point, then you know that the Angels are in a bad position. I think that If you are rolling with a hot bat that Sanó is providing you for like a good 2 weeks in June, that's fine with me. But if he's a regular part of the lineup, that's where things start to become a bit concerning. Now, if it's a DH spot, I could live with that.
Sure.
But if he's in there because Rendon's gone or Shawnuel's not doing well, then I'm concerned. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't want to see him figured into, this is the plan, this is what we're rolling with, this is what we're doing. I want to see him off the bench, and I want to see him maybe get 1 to 2 starts a week and really come in as a defensive replacement, perhaps against a lefty, like a tough lefty, I think would be a good decision.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
He's not on the 40-man, though, so they're going to have to make some sort of move and drop somebody off the 40-man in order to get him on. So I can't think off the top who I would drop, but I wonder if it might be somebody like a Livan Soto, even though they did bring him back. Although I think Soto's probably not on the 40-man because they did bring him back. So that'd be an interesting question for our everydayers to discuss in the YouTube comments. Who you dropping off the 40-man if you're going to bring Sanó as the backup, that last bench spot? That'd be an interesting conversation. Would love to hear your thoughts every day.
Definitely. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen every single day. Coming up, the Angels are preparing Ben Joyce for the late innings, and how are they doing it? Well, we're going to tell you all about that coming right up.
Today's show is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Amazon Fire TV is your destination for sports. From live games to highlights to in-depth analysis, Fire TV offers an amazing viewing experience. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or it's the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. And they recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all of the game analysis, highlights, and more. And Fire TV channels will keep you up to date on all of the latest in the world of sports. Also, they have great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos. Got to check it out. Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked it out yet, here's how you can learn more. Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Once again, that's Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV.
And today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tournament. So don't worry about your bracket going all the way. Just bet on each game with FanDuel. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers, you can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. So there you go. Again, no busted brackets. Just pick the team that you think is going to take it all the way. Just visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Everydayers, mark your calendars because on March 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, the best MLB season preview is coming exclusively to Locked On Sports Today. March 20th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You can be the first to get local insight from the MLB local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Hey, I think I made an appearance in there. Yeah, there you go. You can find it again March 20th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 Pacific on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or Mike, the free Amazon Fire TV channels app.
Johnny, question. How do you get a young pitcher ready for the intensity of the late innings in a close baseball game? According to the Angels, you turn the music up, you pipe in some fans yelling, and then you ask some fans to gather around and yell and scream and cheer and try to distract the pitcher as much as possible. This is what the Halos did for Ben Joyce recently, and I love this idea. It came from some football coaches and what they do in creating environments for quarterbacks and wide receivers. The Halos piped in some noise, some music as Joyce started to throw on the mound, prep throwing on the mound. They call it the chaos drill, John. And Ben Joyce said, I love it.
Yeah, I wish I was part of that crowd that got to participate in that chaos drill. That's
that would have been a blast.
been
So Joyce said, I think it was beneficial to show the game and slow the game down, and it kept me focused on what I needed to do. I think it helped get my head where it needs to be in moments like that, to fine-tune my mechanics when it's really intense and still have a game situation going on around me. John, the results are, it seemed to work, right?
Yeah. A couple days later, Joyce pitched a perfect inning against the Dodgers after he walked the bases loaded and gave up a grand slam in his first 2 outings this spring. Joyce has gotten better in the last couple of outings. We mentioned that 11-pitch, 1 strikeout inning that he had against the Royals. He's 23 years old, Mike, and he throws 100 to 102. That's kind of where he sat last year. But Wash said, it's no good if you can't throw it over the plate, right?
Right. So where did this chaos drill come from? Well, pitching coach Barry Enright said, it's from me. I did it. He said he wanted to create in-game conditions so that Joyce could experience the realism of the situation by giving him game situations to simulate, including pickoff throws, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah,
Joyce
important.
Joyce said he doesn't feel nervous in games, but he does get amped up, which causes him to speed up. So his mechanics speed up, and his where he throws the ball from, the slot where he throws the ball from, it speeds up. And he says it leads to deterioration of his mechanics. He gets all out of sorts. He said being able to keep the heart rate down and stay focused on one pitch at a time, execute that pitch, and move on to the next one. That was really good practice for exactly that. So Johnny, where does Ben Joyce place on this roster right now? I know that things got shuffled a bit with Soriano starting and Wantz starting. And so
Wantz rhymes with pants.
Right. Wantz and pants. There you go. So where does Joyce fit? Is he in this bullpen according to your GM brain? Is he in AAA? Is he in AA? Where would you slot in Ben Joyce this season?
Yeah, I actually wrote it out for myself earlier today, and I kind of forgot about Cisneros because that is somebody they signed to be on the major league roster this offseason. But Mike, if I went with that sort of thing, I think Carlos Estevez, of course, is your closer. You have Matt Moore. Yeah. Robert Stevenson is hoping to be ready for opening day, but if he's not going to be ready, they might consider having Ben Joyce start the season in the bullpen. Adam Simber, I'm a huge fan of, and I think he's the funky arm guy that Jimmy Herget was 2 years ago that we need right now, and not Jimmy Herget that we had last year, right?
Yeah.
Luis Garcia, obviously. Jose Suarez, I think, is going to end up in the bullpen as that long relief guy. Seems to do good in those short bursts. Drew Pomeranz, Mike, I think, as another lefty coming out of the bullpen, I think pairing him with Matt Moore, I think, is an important piece to the bullpen. So that kind of leaves, like, is it going to be Ben Joyce? Is it going to be Cisnero at this point? So I did have Ben Joyce in there, but I think the only way Ben Joyce makes this team is perhaps Stevenson isn't quite ready yet.
Yeah, and when you talk about Pomeranz, I don't think he's on the 40-man either.
He's not. He's not. But
so they're going to have to make a move as well, right?
Yeah. And the same thing with Hunter Strickland as well. But where do you see Ben Joyce ending up at the start of the season?
Honestly, I thought it would be a smart move to have him in AAA. It just
felt like it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Obviously, he's improved a bit, which is great. But I wonder if they're really just prepping him for a major role like later in this season. So I'd love to see him get some fine tuning in the minor leagues in AAA. But if there is a opportunity for him to start the season on the major league roster, then of course you want to go with him. I'm really curious what they will do with Robert Stevenson because he hasn't thrown a pitch yet and hasn't been in a game. And so he's a bullpen guy, so you don't need a bunch of innings, but you do need some innings to get yourself ready. Mm-hmm. And so I could see him taking Stevenson's spot, and maybe Stevenson is on the IL for the first 10 days, right? Mm-hmm. But I would, if everybody's healthy, I would start Joyce in AAA, let him work out some things, let him work on his mechanics. And then maybe perhaps you bring him up in June, right? Because he still has to show that he can go back-to-back days and hasn't shown that yet. And that's something that I would really want him to work on, have some energy for, and then bring out. Which brings a question, John. I would love your thoughts on this. Do you think that's necessary? Do you think that with somebody like Ben Joyce, Does he need to go back-to-back days, or is he a weapon that you only bring out at unique moments?
That's a good question. I think he's the weapon you bring out in unique moments. I'm not sure he absolutely has to go back-to-back because the Angels actually have a good bullpen full of guys who can throw really hard.
Yeah.
And that's Joyce's specialty. But to be fair, the other guys who don't throw quite as hard kind of get the job done better. And they've had the MLB experience. And so, I mean, and that's not taking anything away from Ben Joyce. I just think that those guys, they've been around the block, right? And they throw, touching high 90s, 98, 99, that kind of thing. I guess what I think is important here, Mike, is if you start Joyce down in the minors, then that provides you some reprieve for your bullpen guys who, you might need to bring up a Joyce for a week just to give some of those other bullpen guys a rest. And he's also got the options. He's got the movability that the Angels did not have out of the bullpen last year.
Yeah.
You can bring him up and send him down and bring him up and send him down. I think they just need to be careful with how much they do that early on in the season when you're really going to need somebody like Ben Joyce much later in the season.
Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America, and they're the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you could play against you and just the numbers. And so here's how. You could pick between 2 and 6 players and decide if that player will produce more than or less than the projected stat. And then if you get it right, you can watch your winnings roll in. So whether it's tournament season or it's the NBA season fight for home court in the playoff, you have no shortage of high stakes basketball moments this time of year. And with Prize Picks, you can turn that hoops knowledge into serious cash. And right now you could win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. Really simple to play. You can make picks and submit them in 60 seconds or less, which is fantastic. And the gameplay is easy, and there's an enormous selection of players and stat types. So when you win, and you're going to win because you have good hoops knowledge, there's quick withdrawals like Apple Pay access, and you can get really quick deposits into your account. So download the app today. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Once again, download the app today. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for your first deposit match of up to $100.
Mike, yesterday we took a look at some of the stats from spring in regards to the pitching and the hitting. We felt like it was important to take a look at the guys who are definitely going to be on this team.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about the conundrum of like, hey, the Angels got all these stolen bases. Well, half of them are Jake Marisnick, and he might not even be on the opening day roster.
He's having a great spring.
He's having a great spring, and I would love it if he accepts that AAA assignment because he's somebody that we could turn to later on in the season. However, I think it's important for us to identify what's going on with the actual guys who are going to be there on opening day. So let's take a look at some of the stats here in terms of the starters. Let me start with Zach Neto, Mike. We'll just go back and forth here.
This was going into yesterday's game, so it doesn't include yesterday's game, just so everybody's aware.
That's right. This is prior to yesterday's game. Zach Neto, he's played in 13 games, Mike. He's got a 281 batting average, a 294 on base, Mike, a 594 slugging, and an 888 OPS. He's got 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, and 2 stolen bases.
Nolan Shonowell's been in 13 games as well. He has a 250 batting average, 314 on base, a 406 slugging, and a 721 OPS. He has a homer, 4 RBIs, and he also has stolen a base.
I'm surprised that his slugging is higher than his on-base percentage this spring.
Usually that's switched, right?
Yeah, at least going into yesterday's game. Brandon Drury, Mike, he's been in 12 games. Right now, he's got a 267 batting average, a 353 on base, 400 slugging, a 753 OPS, 1 home run, 7 RBIs, and no stolen bases.
Joe Adell, 14 games, 241 batting average, 258 on base, 517 slugging percentage.
Joe.
Woo! And a 775 OPS. Has a homer, 4 RBIs, and 4 stolen bases.
There you go. Ohapi has been in 11 games. He did get into his 12th game yesterday, but in the first 11 games, 207 batting average, 258 on base, .379 slugging, and a .637 OPS, 1 home run, 3 RBIs, and 1 stolen base.
Here's some numbers that are really exciting to read. Taylor Ward, 12 games, .310 batting average.
Yes.
.412 on base, .414 slugging, .826 OPS, a homer.
Come on.
5 RBIs, hasn't stolen a base on this team, but it's great to see Taylor Ward making contact this spring, and it's great to see him doing that after what happened last season. There doesn't seem to be any fear or hesitancy while he's up at the plate.
Let's talk about Mike Trout, who's gotten into 12 games, a .207 batting average, .273 on base, .414 slugging. So there's his slug again.
Yeah.
.687 OPS. Right now he's got 1 home run, 5 RBIs, and 1 stolen base. Remember the chug he did from first base to second base?
Yes. Mickey Moniak, 13 games, a .308 batting average, .387 on base, .538 slugging, and a .926 OPS, homer, 3 RBIs, and 1 stolen base. I think that we're about to hear from Mickey Moniak this year. I think this is going to be a big year for him.
Absolutely. Aaron Hicks, Mike, has been a pleasant surprise, and he's carrying over what he's done well with the Orioles at the end of last season. These
numbers are ridiculous.
10 games, .381 average, .552 on base, a .762 slugging percentage, and a 1.314 OPS. He's gotten 4 home runs, Mike, 16 RBIs, and 1 stolen base.
Rengifo has just come back from being injured, had a bit of a hamstring issue. 5 games, .286 batting average and on-base percentage, a .357 slugging, and a .634 OPS. He has no home runs, 5 RBIs, and has stolen a base.
5 RBIs for Giffey in 5 games. Boy.
That's good.
Finally, Mike Rendon, 8 games, a .231 batting average, a .500 on-base percentage, which, again, I keep telling you, put him second in the lineup. He's getting on base. A .308 slugging, not a cleanup hitter's slugging percentage, Mike. Right. And an .808 OPS, no home runs, 4 RBIs, a stolen base, and 6 walks for Rendon. We added the walks in there because I think that's a key thing. Mike, what do the numbers tell us so far based on these starter stats?
Well, the stolen base stat is something we have to pay attention to. And when you look at the stolen bases here, only Joe Adell has more than 2. Everybody else has 2 or less.
Yeah.
Some don't even have stolen bases. Not surprised by Drury, not surprised by, other guys like Taylor Ward or whatever. But the reality is I think as we see the Angels leading the spring training stats and stolen bases, we do have to pay attention to who's going to be in there regularly. And so what I think that tells us is the Angels are going to run. They just might not have a huge amount of stolen bases, but they are going to be a team that's running. Probably are going to be more effective in the first to third, taking the extra bag than just being a regular stolen base team. I would anticipate that.
Absolutely. And that's the area they ranked lowest last year, was going first to third, or
they were terrible
taking the extra base when they had the opportunity. Was it the taking the extra base? Was that when they were ranked 30th in the league last year? Yeah. So again, I think it's you brought up Joe Adell with 4 stolen bases. The guy's fighting to show that he belongs.
Yeah.
And I think that he's just showing that, hey, this is another weapon in my game. And that .517 slugging, it's the power, Mike. It's Joe Adell. That's who he is. It's a .241 average, decent, but that .517 slugging is just going to be who he is. But then he's got wheels too. So you don't often see a power guy with wheels like that. And I think Joe Adell is unique. Mike, Aaron Hicks, again, spring training, he's gotten into 10 games, but he, from both sides of the plate, has really proven to be something that is going to be helpful for this team, especially if he's going to displace Moniak against lefties. And Moniak, too, 13 games, .308, .538 slugging. I mean, good grief. The .387 on base is close to that .400 number that you would want. Yeah. You could tell that that's all via the base hit. Mickey Moniak, still think that you want his power bat in the middle of the order instead of top of the lineup. And again, I think Nolan Shonowell, I keep saying it, Rendon should be that 1-2 in front of Mike Trout.
Yeah.
Based on these numbers, Mike, who do you think would make for maybe the best cleanup guy at number 4?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think what I would put at number 4 is Taylor Ward. I think I would put Ward there just simply because he seems to be the most comfortable there. And his numbers last year really, really high-five that. But having him start so well in spring training tells me that he's already finding his groove. And if you can get this Taylor Ward that you're having spring, the 2022 version of Taylor Ward in the middle of the lineup with Shonowell, Rendon, and Trout hitting in front of him, I think this guy's going to have a lot of opportunity to knock in a lot of runs. He might be leading the league in RBIs after the first month if the Angels can continue to get on base, right?
With Aaron Hicks's 16 RBIs, apparently he needs to be the cleanup hitter in 2024. We'll temper our expectations on that, but good on him for making a good impression this spring.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Everydayers, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and it's now available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV apps channel apps. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channel app.
Hey, give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. If you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show on YouTube. Get in the comment section. It's the best way to get in touch with us and be part of the conversation. What do you think the spring numbers tell us so far about the Angel starters? Let's talk about it in the comment section. Mike, what do we have on deck for Friday's show?
Fan Mail Friday. We get to hear from you, so leave your comments and your questions in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening to us, jump on social media. We'd love to hear from you on Twitter and Instagram. You can also call us. The voicemail line is in the episode description. We would love to hear from you. 30 seconds or less. Get your voice on Locked On Angels. Fan Mail Friday is tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
We're looking forward to answering your questions, and of course, we'll cover today's game as well, featuring Tyler Anderson on the mound. So we'll see how that goes for him. All right, friends, we hope you'll come back and join us tomorrow. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here, and we'll see you back here on Friday.
I wore a long sleeve shirt, and I'm sweaty. I got to tell you.
I'm sure people want to know that.
Yes, they do. You're